Talk about classic Doom and it won't be long until you start talking about Romero. His contributions to the original Doom and its sequel Doom 2 have delighted, astounded and frustrated entire generations of gamers. Whenever I play Doom on stream, people ask me what I think of his levels, so I thought it would be fun to do a Tiermaker list with his levels from across both retail games, discuss my general feelings and have a bit of fun ranking them. Of course, I'm not doing this as a deep dive and it's all highly subjective. You'll have your own interpretation of these levels and you'll want to rank them in your own way, and to help facilitate this, I've even made the Tiermaker list that I've created for this video available for everyone to use. I don't really pay attention to who is making which levels when playing Doom, so this is all just a bit of fun to explore these levels and rank them against each other. Just because I'll be asked a dozen times in the comments, no, this doesn't include Sigil 1 or 2 or any of the solo levels he made for Doom 1 and Doom 2. The reason for this quite simply is that these were made 2 decades after the release of Doom 2, and so I feel they're a bit out of the remit of this video. I'm also going to limit myself to only putting 2 levels in the S tier. I feel that when you do these lists, you should always make the top tier feel special, and having so many levels in there, because a lot of levels could go into the S tier, kinda makes it a bit redundant to have an S tier. With all that out of the way, let's dive in and rank Romero's Doom 1 and Doom 2's levels. For me, Hangar is just a very well designed level. It introduces all the core concepts of Doom very early on, introduces the basic mechanics of the game and teaches the player how to survive in this world that they're going to be exploring for the next few hours. I think the level looks great, I think it's laid out very smartly. I also like the addition of the switch on the pillar inside the first room to the left, because I think that makes the multiplayer just that much more fun. In both single player and in multiplayer, this level excels. It's one of the best levels in Ultimate Doom, just for a fun time in my opinion. Of course, a lot of people will say that there's a lot of nostalgia attached to this map, and of course there is. It's the first level many people will have played of Doom. But for me personally, that doesn't weigh down this level at all. In fact, it lifts it up. The fact that this level is so iconic, and the fact that this level plays so well after all these years, compared to a lot of levels that come after it which don't play nearly as well or aren't even as fun to play, I just think this level deserves its flowers, and thus I'm going to be putting it in the A tier. I'm going to be honest with you here, I like Nuclear Plant, but I do not love Nuclear Plant, and I never really have. I think what it does well. It introduces the concept of key doors, it introduces the concept of optional extra areas. I kind of like the maze, although I think that after years of exploring it, it does feel a bit basic, but then again, like, this was the first maze in Doom, so you can't be too critical of it. I think ultimately, I do like this level a lot, but I don't think it's nearly as iconic as Hangar, and I also think it's not as strong as other levels in Knee Deep in the Dead, especially other levels that Romero has made. It's got some really fun encounters, lots of cool optional extras, and I like the fact that when you go down the lift into the darkened room, there's a secret way into that room that gives players a small advantage if they're paying attention. That being said though, this isn't one of my favourite Romero maps, and I feel that as much as I would love to put it in that top tier, so I feel that this level should slide right into the B tier for me. It's a very solid map by Romero, but I think he did better elsewhere. Toxin Refinery for me is just an excellent level. It's a big step up in difficulty from the first 2 levels if you're playing on the Ultra Violence difficulty, but I think what really sets this level apart is just the variety on offer here. There's one route through the level that sees you collect the blue key and then head straight towards the exit, but if you pay attention, hit the right switches, there's a completely different level at play here. It's basically 2 different levels in one, and as a kid that used to blow my mind. Even now, I still smile when I get to this level. There's just so much variety, so many different things are thrown at the player, and so much is put on the table that the player can take if they want. I just feel this is an excellently crafted, fine-tuned level that rewards the curious, but also gives players who don't really care about that optional extra stuff a way to sort of get through without being overburdened. For me, this is the first true classic level of Doom 1, and it's one of the best levels in the entire game, in my opinion. Romero really knocked it out of the park with this one, and I'm going to put it high in the A tier, just because I'm only putting 2 levels in the S tier, but if I could put more in, this would definitely be in the S tier. Again, it's another excellent level. E1M5, Phobos Labs, it's just got all the ingredients that come together to make a really fun, action-packed adventure that's very suspenseful, filled with different kinds of encounters. There's some fun traps in this one, and on top of that, I just love the music with this one. Back in the days when we only had the Knee Deep in the Dead episode, this is the level that I used to really enjoy playing through because it was so suspenseful and it was very difficult. Everything after that yellow door, when you're heading down towards the switch at the bottom, it's a real pain on ultraviolence when you're not ready for it. I know I'm not breaking any new ground by saying Knee Deep in the Dead has lots of really good Romero levels, but Knee Deep in the Dead has lots of really good Romero levels, and it's not hard for me to say this is easily among the best levels in the entirety of Ultimate Doom. But I'm not going to put it in the S tier as much as I really want to, and this and E1M3 would easily be in that S tier if I could overcrowd that S tier. But for now, I think this is going to join E1M3 in the high end of the A tier. I've always viewed E1M6 as a very kind of action orientated level. There's a lot going on in this one. There's a lot of toing and froing, running across the level, finding new spaces, having lots of encounters. There's a lot of pinkies on this one, and they all love to sort of chomp on you. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that maze after the blue door. I have to say that of all the things I do in Ultimate Doom, that maze is always one that I skip straight past. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think it's particularly fun to explore, and I'm going to be honest with you, that secret that allows you to get to the yellow key without having to go in there. But I really like this level overall. I think that it's chaotic, but in a good way. I think that there's a lot of moving parts that bring this together, and the fact that you're not forced in one direction, you can find different ways to get towards the end of the level. Really nice touch. It's one of the bigger levels in Ultimate Doom that I really appreciate. Really fun, this one, and it's gonna go nearer to the bottom of the A tier, I think. I don't consider it as good as E1M3 or E1M5, but I do think it deserves to be almost shoulder to shoulder with them. If you have spent any amount of time watching any of the videos and walkthroughs I've done on this channel, you will know that E1M7 was going into S tier before we even started this video. I consider Computer Station to be the best in Ultimate Doom, and if it's not the best, it's in the top 2 in my opinion. I think Computer Station is one of Romero's more sophisticated and elaborate pieces of level construction, because I feel that not only is it a great level, it's a level that sort of unfolds the more you play it. As you're making your way through the level, you can be attacked from enemies who are in future parts of the level, and it's up to you if you want to take them out or not. It'll make things easier later on, and that's one of the things in Doom level design that I always look for in high quality maps. There's just so many secrets, there's so many different directions that you can head in. At the start, there's multiple directions you can head in. Of course, they all lead to the yellow key, but the fact is, you have a choice in how you approach the path to the yellow key. You can dart straight towards it, you can go and hide, you can take out enemies further on in the level, and then once you get towards the red key, walls start opening up, enemies start flooding back into the level. There's just a lot going on with this one. I read somewhere that this was one of the earliest levels that Romero made to sort of show how Doom levels should be made, and I think it's very fitting that even after all the other levels were made, that level is still one of the best levels across all of retail Doom for me. And I know some people are going to say, well, it's not that difficult, it's not got like higher tier enemies and all that. Doesn't matter. This level for me, it just hits that sweet spot in Doom level design of being complex, layered, having lots of things to do, so many secret areas. It's a firm challenge if you're playing without cheats, and I think that it definitely deserves that S tier spot in my opinion. A lot of people do not like E1M9 military base, but I've never really had a problem with it. Like, when I used to come to this level as a kid, I used to see it as a fun extra. I used to enjoy sort of running around. The layout of this one is very concise. It's very hard to get lost in this level, and you can clearly tell there's a multiplayer focus here. And of course, It's not as elaborate as some of the bigger levels in Knee Deep in the Dead or the Shores of Hell or Inferno, but in my opinion that doesn't take away too much from this one. I think that the encounters here, in particular that courtroom at the start, if you pistol start this map on Ultraviolence, it is a bit of a slog at the start with all those imps in the middle, all the shotgunners and zombie men, and then of course when you go down all the stairs you have to face off against the specters, the pinkies, that trap with the rocket launcher where all the pinkies and all the enemies flood in. I think there's a lot in this level to really like. Now, is it one of the best levels in Knee Deep in the Dead? I don't think so. I think that it is near the bottom of the episode's rankings, but that doesn't make it a bad level. I think Romero did a good job with this one. It is a fun level to play through, in my opinion. A nice little distraction, if a little bit bland. Yeah, I know the layout is interesting on this one, but it's a bit more multiplayer focused. I think that takes away from the grandeur of it a tiny bit. But I'm going to put this one dead set in the B tier. I've never had a problem with this one. I think it's fun, and I think that it delivers on that secret level promise without really doing anything too spectacular. This is probably where I'm going to lose a lot of people, but I do not like Perfect Hatred. I have never really liked Perfect Hatred. The problem I have with this level is that it employs a lot of cheap tactics in order to artificially raise the difficulty. And I know that for some Doom players that's absolutely fine, but I just feel that there's a lot of moments in this level where instead of trying to create really interesting and well thought out encounters, Romero just puts a Baron of Hell in, or puts 2 Baron of Hells in, or 3 Barons of Hell. I feel that the difficulty in this one, it's just a bit too cheap for my liking, and the fact that there's only one rad suit and so much lava floor to explore, in my opinion, it really detracts from what this level could have been. And I've even said this before to people when they talk about this level to me. I feel this level would have been great as a Doom 2 level. I feel with an enhanced roster of enemies to put in, with some Hell Knights, with some Mancubus, with some Arachnotrons, I think this level could have really shined. But putting Barons of Hell in the numbers that they appear in this level and expecting you to fight them with a shotgun for most of the time, for me it's just tedious. And unfortunately no amount of window dressing and nice decorations can take away from that. Do love the cave section though, very well designed, and Romero has this flair for making the unnatural seem very natural. Unfortunately for me though, this is rock bottom of C tier. I'm tempted to put it in D tier, but I don't think I'd survive the night if I did that. But unfortunately this level does nothing for me, so it goes into the C tier. I personally believe that Against Thee Wickedly is probably the best level in Thy Flesh Consumed as an episode. I think Romero here delivers a very grand experience, one that escalates very nicely. There's a lot of exploration here, and if you like that central teleporter puzzle where you get thrown across the level, I think you'll love this one. If you can't get your head around that, or you think that the teleporter puzzle is just a waste of time, then I can understand why people would probably put this a lot lower. I love the architecture in this one as well. Romero makes great use of the heights. There's a lot of things happening around the player. There's always something visually interesting to look at, and I think that the way that Romero kind of marries that white marble with the green of the castle, it all just comes together in this really sort of beautiful crescendo for Ultimate Doom. In my opinion, this is probably one of the best looking Ultimate Doom levels from across all 4 of the episodes. But that being said, I don't think it's one of Romero's best in all of the Doom campaigns and Ultimate Doom. I just feel that it's very grand. That fight with the Cyber Demon is actually really interesting, and it's kind of a shame that there's an invulnerability that's right next to it, because I feel that had that not been there, you would have had this epic encounter across a great distance. That would have made such a great final boss battle for Thy Flesh Consumed, and it's one of the things I say about this episode. I personally would have made this the final level, because I think that this level is such a grand encounter, and the setting feels very much like a grand finale. Everything that comes after this feels like a step down, like we're on the down slope, and unfortunately I think that this is the peak of Thy Flesh Consumed. So for me, I'm going to put this in the middle of the A tier. I think it deserves all the respect it gets, and I think it's a very firm challenge. It's a good level by Romero. I recently made a video about Circle of Death, and I stand by everything I said in that video. This is one of my favourite Doom 2 levels. I think that it's got some quirky level design. I think some people don't like it because it's a bit directionless, it's a bit hard to kind of read on your first playthrough. It's not super obvious what hitting some of the switches does, and you have to kind of go and explore that. But at the same time, it's a very unique visual level, and it's fun to kind of poke around, find all the secrets as they open up, and make your way forward in the level. I do think that there are improvements that could have been made to this one, but I think of all the larger levels in Doom 2, this is one of the ones that truly understands how that should work in Doom, and it plays to the limitations of Doom very well, I find. Like I said, there's a lot of potential left on the table with this one, but I also think that it's probably one of Romero's best levels overall. It's very concise, it's very deliberate, and I think that there's a lot of atmosphere in it and fun encounters for the player to make their way through. So if you want to see more about this, I've obviously, like I said, put a recent video up about this level, but my opinion on it remains unchanged and I love it. So it's going right at the top of A tier. Would go into S tier if I hadn't capped it to 2. Industrial Zone is one of those levels I go back and forth on so much. Sometimes I love how big it is, I love how experimental it is, I love the fact that it throws so much into the mix. I also like that it's one of the few levels in that second episode of Doom 2 to actually go fully in on the idea of being hell on Earth, introducing us to human structures on Earth. Even though I struggle to sort of understand what a lot of these structures are meant to be, but at the same time, I really struggle to understand why Romero made some of the decisions he did with this one. There's a lot of teleporter jumping around, you've got to kind of feel your way in the darkness, trying to find the right teleporter that'll take you to the right place. It's a very confusing level at times, and I think it goes on just a bit too long. I also kind of have to bring this up. Romero really has a thing for just making castles. Like, you see it in Thy Flesh Consumed, but you also kind of see it here. And I get that he wanted to add some visual flair to this level, but we're supposed to be downtown in Doom's hometown. So why is there a castle slash keep in the middle of this industrial zone? It's always drove me crazy, the fact that, like, you've got these two very these two opposing aesthetics that don't really go all that well together. And I think that had Romero kind of settled on one overall aesthetic, and had he sort of played into that a bit more, I think this level would be a lot better. I actually think, much like with the Chasm, this level's a lot better on GBA, because GBA kind of limits the scope of the level, cuts it in two, and I think what you end up with is two stronger levels overall because of that. And because of that, I'm gonna put this towards the bottom of the B tier. Like I said, I go back and forth on it. I don't hate it, I admire what it's trying to do, but it's a very confusing level at points, and there's a lot of things that the player kind of has to work out through trial and error, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I'll be completely honest with you, I am not the biggest fan of Tenements. I always struggle to remember Tenements, and whenever people ask me what are my favourites and least favourite levels in Doom 2, I can hand on heart say the Tenements has never really made either of those lists. It's a very bang average level for me, and while I appreciate that it wants to kind of have its cake and eat it, and it wants to throw all these different sort of spaces together, a bit like Industrial Zone but on a much more concise scale, I'll be honest with you, I don't really like this one, and out of all the levels we've talked about so far, I've at least had some kind of emotional response to it. But when I'm thinking about Tenements right now, and I'm thinking about all the little battles in it, the raising platforms before the blue key, that really stupid blue door room, I just feel that, honestly, I haven't really got that much to say about it. So for me, this is dead set to go into the C tier. I give Gotcha a lot of praise for being such a grand experience. Putting the spider mastermind and the cyber demon in close quarters as this level does is something I assume a lot of level makers were doing back in 93, 94. I like the concept of this level, the idea that the city is being slowly flooded with all this blood and boiling lava. It's very visually striking, and I think that this level is really, really fun, provided you don't try to wander off the path that Romero tries to set you on. The second that you sort of head off to the sides, I think the level starts losing a lot of marks because a lot of the optional extra areas, they're not that fun. They're really just kind of tedious, like narrow corridors or lifts that take you up to rooms that overlook the level. I just feel that on a visual sense, this level really gets what Doom 2 is about, and that Spider Mastermind and Cyber Demon encounter really, really fun. Everything after that though, it loses a lot of momentum very quickly for me, this one, and unfortunately the weight of that second half of the level for me is enough for me to say this is going into the C tier. This is a level that I want to love, and I never have found that love for it. This is another Romero level where the concept of the abandoned mines works really well, and I really like a lot of the execution of it. My problem is that there's that whole secret area right behind the starting area, which in my opinion, why is that even there? It really doesn't need to be there. Everything in that room just feels like an afterthought. It really does just feel like a room that's there to sort of torment players who accidentally stumble into it. And the rest of the level, I think it works really, really well. I like how the mines themselves are juxtaposed with the giant cavern that you kind of have to work your way up to get to the top and get into the key door. Again, I love it when Romero makes great use of outdoor spaces, and I've always found the outdoor space in this level to actually be pretty fun. Although I'm not a fan of that mancubus at the bottom with the barrels that tries to blow itself up. Overall, I like the abandoned mines. It's a fun level, and there's a lot of fun little quirks here that are just very, very memorable. This is one of those Doom 2 levels that you play through, you have a good time. It doesn't really stick with you for that long after you've played it, but you didn't have a bad time playing through it, I think, and that's the nicest thing I can say about this one. I think that this one definitely should go into B tier, but I don't know if it's as memorable as Industrial Zone, which in my opinion beats it out just slightly for being a bit grander in scale and having a bit more ambition, whereas the Abandoned Mines, it's fun, but it doesn't deliver on the potential as much, I think. In my mind, The Living End is exactly what Doom 2 should have always been striving for when it said bigger levels. In my opinion, what this level does with its space is really, really creative. It's visually very stunning as you drop down that lift and the level sort of unveils itself to you in this very, very grand manner. But what I also like is that a lot of the encounters in this level, they are not stretched across the level. A lot of the encounters are very close quarter. You're forced to sort of walk along the walkways on the outside, walk up the staircases. There's enemies that are shooting you from above. There's enemies shooting you from where you've previously been. There's enemies shooting you from the end of a level. There's always something trying to take you out in this level. And if you're not careful, if you don't plan what you're supposed to be doing, the Caco demons that get unleashed in this one can follow you around the level and just be an absolute torment. Now, in terms of the actual encounters, I think this level really does a good job of sort of testing and messing around with the player's expectations. I like the Archvile, for example, that's in the switch halfway through the level. I like the fact that the Baron encounter, it teleports around you. By that point in Doom 2, people are probably not too excited by Baron encounters, so having that kind of thing happen, really, really fun. I do like the area towards the end of a level as well, where the Revenants sort of charge you with all the zombie men around. There's a lot of tight, intense moments for me in this one, and what I really like is that Romero seems to have learned here the lesson he didn't learn in Industrial Zone, where you can make things bigger, but that doesn't mean you have to make things complicated, because there's only one real pathway through this level. Unless, of course, you pay attention and you explore a bit and you find out that you can actually skip a lot of a level just by using the right teleporters. But again, that's for the advanced players. For the players who are here for the first time, it's actually really difficult to not find your way back, because a lot of this level, even though it's big, points you in the right direction with very little interference from the game. Overall, I love this level. The only thing that really annoys me is that the Cyber Demon encounter is such a non-issue, because once you realize that there's a portal right behind the Cyber Demon, and by the time it's raised itself up, you're long gone. So I feel that Cyber Demon encounter at the end of a level could have been a lot better. In my opinion, that is the one thing that really hurts this level. But overall, I think this is my favorite Doom 2 level, and I've always felt that. I've always felt this level encapsulates what I want from my Doom 2 experience. You don't get a level like this in Ultimate Doom, and you don't really get a level like this through the whole of Doom 2. It's the penultimate level, and in my opinion, it really does a good job of overshadowing a lot of the levels that came before it. And for that reason, I'm going to put it right at the top of the S tier for me. I think Romero was cooking with this level, and along with Computer Station, I think that they are brilliant examples of how Romero's level design just can be so concise, so complicated, and just so elaborate at the same time. All three things can be right at the same time, and for those two levels, in my opinion, that's what Romero achieved.